This is Cameron Gwynn with you and Jimmy Paxton. What's up, dude?
How you doing, Cam?
Not bad, not bad. We got a lot to talk to you guys about today. What do we got?
We're going to talk about Michigan and Michigan State. They both made the tournament, surprisingly or non-surprisingly, no matter how you feel about that. We're going to talk about, it's basically an all-March Madness thing on the Cam Jam podcast today. It's surprise teams and overrated teams. Then in the middle of it, we're going to go with Kicking It with Mr. Gwynn. As everyone knows, Cameron cares about soccer for some odd reason. And so then we're going to go to I Got My NASCAR Report that we do every podcast, or we're going to start doing every podcast. And then we're going to go back to March Madness with the Elite Eight and on, the championship game, predicting the brackets, and then we're going to go to the Player of the Week, where each of us pick a player. But to start out, did you watch a lot of basketball this weekend?
Dude, wait, can we just... You're talking about me caring about soccer, which is like the most popular sport in the world, and you're talking about NASCAR?
It makes sense for me to care about NASCAR, though.
Turn left.
No, it's because
you should care about basketball more than that.
I'm a car guy.
I'm a car guy, too.
And I do have racers in my family.
Ooh,
so
do I. Go-karts.
All right, the point of it is we pick an odd sport where...
We both love these sports, and we think that they don't get enough exposure on the big names like NBC Sports does quite a bit, but that's like really the only one that does.
Correct.
All right. No, we get it. Let's go.
Are you sure?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's get this show rolling. It's a Cam Jam experience. You're about to experience like a daily thing for us when we just sit down and talk about sports. You might hear us get mad at each other. Might start yelling maybe. Overall, should be okay, though, right? You're not going to start throwing fists at me, right? Because I'm making fun of having to turn left.
We'll see. All right, to start it up, we're
going
to go right into March Madness. And the number one seeds that were selected yesterday was Villanova, Gonzaga, Kansas, North Carolina, Duke, Arizona, Kentucky, and Louisville were the twos. Do you see any issues?
I mean, I understand why North Carolina got the number one, even though they didn't win the ACC. I get it. They had a sick year. They played amazing. But Duke won the championship, so that's the only one that I could lobby for having a switch maybe, but I'm okay with it just because North Carolina had a stellar season this year.
Okay.
But no, that's really it. I think the number ones are pretty good. Gonzaga was unreal this season. Only losing one game is really, really hard to do in men's basketball or women's. Shout out to Gino Oriama, but no, it's hard to do that.
All right, so I don't have any issues with the number one seeds. I think that they all performed at an exceptional level, and when you look at this season as a whole, all four of them deserve to be there.
Yeah. I mean, losing 7 games with the ACC schedule is really hard to do, like North Carolina did. So.
Well, they had a hard season.
No, they really did. That's what I'm saying. Losing 7 games with the season they had, that's hard, you know?
And I think the issue when it comes down to the 2 seeds is that each one of them, when you look at it, lost a game or 2 that they were not supposed to.
Yes, everybody did. And that's what Jay Billis keeps saying. He keeps saying that, anybody can lose on any given day, which is true. Any of these teams have an opportunity where someone comes up and just kind of smacks them in the face, you know?
It's a weird vibe that the March Madness tournament brings to you.
Dude, it kind of gives me the feeling that we could possibly see a 16 beat a 1 this year.
Okay.
Maybe, dude.
Who?
South Dakota State's not bad. Against Gonzaga.
Okay. You're insane.
All right, that's fine.
You
can tell me that. Gonzaga hasn't really been playing amazing down the stretch.
I don't see a 16 seed beating a 1 seed. And since we're going down that road, I don't see a 15 beating a 2.
Did you see that last year, though, with MSU getting whomped?
I did not see it happening.
Okay.
But it in prediction mode, I don't see it happening. And I'd say the biggest upset that I see could happening is...
Nevada over Iowa State.
Possibly. I mean, what's the seeding there?
12-5.
12-5. No, I wasn't going to go there. I think there could be a bigger upset happening. I believe Florida had a really off year this year.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think East Tennessee State could beat Florida for the reason being that I got to see Florida play quite a bit being a UK fan and watching a lot of SEC basketball. And I don't think they played at what they were supposed to. Granted, they do have 8 losses, but the fact is they played very terrible.
They're off. They're out of conference schedule. Wasn't really all that crazy either.
It wasn't, and they definitely could have played better. So I think East Tennessee State could beat Florida there as the biggest upset.
Florida State's been playing bad down the stretch too.
Well, they got that one team that got lucky.
And FGCU though.
Yes, Florida Gulf Coast had a major run. So it could.
You say this team got lucky. They've kind of been one of the teams that has been consistently getting into the tournament the past few years, though.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be something. I believe they have experience with. They have a new coach this year, but they do have experience with some seniors coming back who have played in the tournament before, who can help these younger guys out.
Well, we'll have to see about that.
Yeah, I mean that'll be a hard one to do because that's a 3 and a 14,
Right. So
if you have the guts to pick that in your bracket and you get it right, good for you. That's all I'm gonna say.
It all comes down to luck when it comes to bracket picking. It's one of my favorite times of the year. It's that everyone picks a bracket when you have no idea who's gonna play who in the next round. You don't watch a lot of games. Most people. I mean, we're different from others. We've been watching for the last few months, but when it comes down to it, people who haven't watched the game will go pick it. So it's very interesting to see how they pick. For the local teams, Michigan ended up being a 7 seed after they won the Big Ten tournament. They beat Wisconsin yesterday, and
that was good to see. I got scared when they drew Wisconsin for the final. Seeing Wisconsin go over Northwestern how they did, it really scared me.
It didn't look great, but I mean the way Michigan's playing right now, I wouldn't be afraid of anyone. And I say that because they beat Purdue, and when you win 4 games in 4 days, it's not easy to do.
After what could have been a near-death experience with the airplane,
it's helping them.
Yeah, I think that woke up the team a little bit. I think that was the realization that if we lose this next game, the season's over.
Right.
Because, I mean, honestly, they lose in the first or second round of the Big Ten, chances are they become a double-digit seed or hardly get in at all, or become a Syracuse.
I didn't expect Michigan to be
right.
a 10
I didn't think they were going to win the Big Ten championship. Once they got to the final, I figured, okay, that's pretty cool. Maybe they'll get a high seed, but or a low seed.
Michigan will play Oklahoma State at 12:15 on Friday, and they got Oklahoma State, who's a 20-12 record team. They played decently. They're one of those teams who got in. I'm not going to say barely got in, but they didn't do anything magnificent this year.
They squeaked in. So we're going to do Michigan first. How far do you think Michigan can go, and do you have any surprises for them? I mean, if you're judging Michigan as a team right now, what do you think they're going to do Friday? What do you think they're going to do going on for the rest of the season? If I'm judging Michigan just on a team as how they have been playing, you got to look at it this way. Oklahoma State is kind of a spotty team. They have their games where they play outstanding, where they can be ranked in the top 25 in the nation on a consistent basis, and then they play their games where they look terrible. That's where the 12 losses come in. It's not because, a couple of them are because teams just handled them completely, but they kind of shoot themselves in the foot a lot. So if Michigan can capitalize on that, obviously they can move on with how they've been playing. Their defense has been playing amazing, which could shut down Oklahoma State. So I can see Michigan winning that game. But then you look into the next spot, and you got Louisville and Jacksonville State. So Louisville's been playing good. They're going to move on. I just don't know if Michigan can handle Louisville. I don't think it's going to work out. I mean, Louisville every once in a while has their moments where turnovers become an issue, But I don't think Michigan has a strong enough defense to be able to handle Louisville's offense. I think Louisville's offense is great. I think their defense is pretty good too. So I think that's about as far as they'll go, is to the second round.
Sadly, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's going to be a second-round game. I think Michigan's going to get by Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State does have some really good shooters. And when you look at who you're going to have to worry about, Juwan Evans and Jeffrey Carroll for Oklahoma State, Carroll averages 17.4, Evans averages 19 points. But
So you just shut down those two players, and it should be okay.
It looks like it. I mean, they do have some other players that do very well in certain spots, but Evans and Carroll are the two main guys that Oklahoma State uses.
Right.
So it would be interesting to see how they play Oklahoma State. I don't see any issues with Michigan winning this game.
No.
I'd say 10 points to 15 that they'd win the game.
Maybe.
They're coming off a really hard-fought loss against Iowa State in the Big 12 championship.
Right.
And so we'll see how that goes.
We will.
But I believe Michigan gets past that first round, and they have the potential to beat Louisville, but it's just not going to happen, in my opinion. I think Louisville is too good of a team.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, but they beat Louisville. I think honestly, if they beat Louisville, I think they could go to the Elite Eight.
Well, it's that getting over the hump of Louisville.
I know.
I mean, when you look at the bracket, who would, in your prediction, be the next round after Louisville?
Probably Oregon or Creighton, which are two decent teams. But I feel like if Michigan's defense keeps playing how they've been playing, that shouldn't really be an issue, because when Oregon faces really good defenses, they kind of shut down and fold a little bit, and the only person who's out on the court is Brooks in that situation. And you can't just have one guy in college basketball doing it all, you know? But with Creighton, they haven't really been tested by a huge, big school, you know? And some of these guys in Michigan are going to be a little bit bigger than the guys from Creighton are used to, you know, because of their conference. And that's not Creighton's fault. They're in a bad conference. They're still a great team, but I just think Michigan has the ability to have the size over them, you know?
I would agree. It's pretty easily to see that if Michigan beats Louisville in the second round, then the next team they'd have to worry about, in my opinion, would be Kansas in the Elite Eight. But I don't think Michigan's going to beat Louisville. I think they'll make it to the second round.
Yeah, I agree, though.
They'll lose next Sunday to Louisville.
So what do you think about Michigan State? Let's turn the gears a little bit.
Michigan State plays Miami at 9:40. They got the 9 seed, 19 and 14, which is a very generous, very generous 9 seed. My opinion, they should have been a 12 or a 13.
Yeah, they should be playing Purdue, honestly. Purdue's a 4 seed against Vermont, who's a 13 seed. That's where I honestly thought Michigan State was going to fall.
Well, the exact opposite of Michigan, in my opinion, of Michigan State, I don't see any good things coming from them. They lost in a close game to Minnesota, 63-58, excuse me. But to be fair, they won one game in the Big Ten tournament against Nebraska. And before that, they lost to Michigan 86-57.
Yeah.
And this isn't looking like a Michigan State season.
No, this
is why I'm judging them very harshly. And I don't mean that based on record or play. Izzo's yelling at reporters. Izzo's getting back at people saying, well, you don't care about what the fans say. And he's
kind of falling off the wagon a little bit.
In that game against Iowa, when a player came up to him and tried to give him a little joking hug, he's yelling at him to get away from him. His team doesn't look like the Spartans team that's supposed to be tournament contenders every single year.
When you see those teams like the Dukes, the Louisvilles, the North Carolinas, all the coaches are right with their players. They're listening to what the players have to say. They're hugging them in celebration. They're not. I mean, they do yell at them when they do something wrong, obviously, but Tom Izzo's just kind of yelling at them when everything's going right, you know? And some people like that, saying, oh, well, he's just such a competitive guy, all this stuff, you know, but not at the college level. You don't do that. You see Mike Krzyzewski yelling at his players after they just had a sweet play.
I disagree with that. I do like that he's yelling. I do like the passion.
Right.
I'm not going to say it's bad that he has passion.
No, it's not that. It's just the timing of the passion sometimes is bad.
They don't have an easy game this first round.
No.
In my opinion, they're losing in the first round.
I think so, too. Miami is, I mean, they're a hurricane on offense when they go at you, so.
That was
you
lame.
Can laugh.
That was
okay.
lame. That was really lame. But they have some really good players. One person I want you to look out for.
Hey, wait. Just make sure you turn left, okay?
Yes.
NASCAR.
One person I want you to look out for is Jaquan Newton.
Yeah.
And I say that because Newton had 13.4 points per game, and he makes a lot of shots that people don't expect him to make. What I mean by that is he is a very decent 3-point shooter.
Yes, he is.
He's does things well, and I like what I see from Jaquan Newton. And of course, Devon Reed is kind of the Hurricane leader. He does everything well.
You say he's the eye of the storm.
He'll be the eye of the storm. You've done that twice right now. That's pretty. I'll give you credit. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
But I see Reed and Newton tearing up this very weak Spartan defense. Yes, the Spartans have Bridges.
Right.
Yes, they have Izzo as a coach,
It's
and
not
Izzo
enough.
usually does do things very well, but I don't see them beating Miami.
It's not enough this year. I agree with what you're saying in the sense that it's not a Spartan team we've been used to seeing the past 5-6 years, where they look like a legit threat in the tournament. They don't really look like a legit threat. They're definitely not worthy of a 9 seed. That's very generous. They should be either where Nevada is or where Vermont is. So that's just my honest opinion about it. So let's look into something else. You want to go into soccer for a little bit? You want to kick it with me?
We're going to go to Kicking It with Mr. Gwynn. This is going to be a 4-5 minute operation where Cameron talks about soccer around the world. And we're going to go to Kicking It with Mr. Gwynn.
All right. Thank you for that. So let's look at the MLS for a minute. MLS just got underway. A couple games have been played so far. Most teams have only played 2 or 3 games so far. But right now, no surprise, New York Red Bulls are at the top of the list for the Eastern Conference in the MLS. They always are. This is just, I don't know how to explain what the New York Red Bulls are. They're just an all-star team that just happens to all be on the same team. They're consistent year in, year out. That's always a team you have to look for at the top. And another one that is kind of spotty, that is playing amazing this year, though, Chicago Fire. Right now, they only have 4 points because, they've only played 2 games. They have 1 tie and 1 win. But that's a team that you got to look for at all times. One of my favorite teams, though, in the Eastern Conference is New York City FC. They're one of the new expansion teams that was added a couple years ago. They have great talent. They have old guys that I'm sure you don't recognize the name of them, Jimmy, but I love these guys. David Villa, who played for Barcelona, great midfielder. Awesome player. Just can't say enough about this guy. And then another player that you always look out for when you're younger, every midfielder, and I played midfield when I played soccer for the longest time. Every midfielder wanted to be this guy, Andrea Pirlo. Amazing midfielder. He literally, and I'm dead serious when I say this, he probably doesn't leave the center circle on a majority of the passes he does. He hits 60-yard bombs to forwards, puts it right on their foot for them, serves it up on a platter, and just says, here you go, tap it in. He hands out goals for these young guys, and that's awesome to have on a team that is really just starting out. Having that talent is awesome. Nobody else can ask for a better set than Pirlo and David Villa. So then let's look over at the Western side. A team that I absolutely love, who's always at the top recently, is Portland Timbers. They're sweet. One of my bucket lists, or the top of my bucket list right now, is to go see a Portland Timbers game. And when I say that, it's because just the atmosphere looks like as close as you can get to an England atmosphere when you go to a soccer game. That's not England. So they have all kinds of talent. They're a sweet team. But let's look down a little bit into the 5 spot in the Western Conference, the Colorado Rapids. And the only reason we're going to look at them is because they have Tim Howard. And I know you know that name, right, Jimmy?
A very amazing goalie for the United States.
Thank you. So, Tim Howard is back after a groin issue. And that didn't look to slow him down at all. The dude is a freak. He is one of my favorite goalies, and I know I said I played midfield for a while when I was in soccer, but I also played goalie. He is one person that I looked up to just because of the fact he's from the U.S. He's a great goalie. He played at Everton, who was one of my favorite teams for a little bit out in England. The dude had 7 saves in his return after a groin injury. And you know how hard that is as a goalie to just have 7 saves in general in a game? That's crazy. Unfortunately, they were playing the Red Bulls, so the Red Bulls were able to get one quick one on them, but nothing you can really do. It was an own goal, actually. So Colorado just scored on themselves. Said, here you go, New York, you can have this win. But, so, the whole reason we're talking about Tim Howard is because the U.S. national team has been using their backup keeper, Guzman, who I don't know how to explain this guy. Sometimes I love him. Usually I can't stand him.
Well, he's not consistent.
He's not consistent at all. Tim Howard is Mr. Consistent. They're opposite people. What do you got to say?
I don't think they should get rid of Howard until he's done.
No, they're not. They're not going to.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying they're using their backup, and they're seeing what could happen if they decide to go with the younger guy. And quite frankly, I think experience is beating talent.
Right, and that's true. But no, they're looking to get Howard back into it as quickly as possible. So that's what I got on the U.S. team right now. Let's move our way over to the most popular one. Actually, no, let's look at La Liga for a second. They're kind of weird this year. Barcelona is not playing how they usually do. They have 60 points right now, and Real Madrid has taken over the number one spot right now with 62 points. It's always those two teams at the top, so that doesn't really surprise me. But Barcelona is not playing how they usually do, which is quite frankly sad to see. So let's look at the Premier League. Chelsea at the number one spot, they have 66 points. They hold a commanding lead right over Tottenham. But right behind them is Manchester City, my ultimate favorite team. They have 56 points. And actually, coming up on Wednesday, April 5th, Chelsea and Man City play. So, like I said, Man City's my team, but it looks kind of grim given the fact that they are going to Chelsea and playing there. But, it looks grim. They've played 49 games. Chelsea's won 23 of those 49. Manchester City has won 9 of them, and they've tied 7 times. So, it's not good. It's not looking good at all. So, we'll keep an eye on the Premier League. Obviously, it could change. Chelsea could go on a terrible run like they did last year and just start losing games for no reason. But it doesn't look like that's going to be the case this year. They look like they're in it for the long haul. So I was kicking it with Mr. Gwynn. So you want to start turning left for a minute?
Yeah, we're going to go to the NASCAR stuff. NASCAR's always been one of my favorite sports, one thing that I've shared with my father over the years. And it's a very popular sport that does not get any credit. And that's why I always do a NASCAR segment. More importantly, yesterday was a very amazing day in NASCAR that most of you found out for not the race. To start out with the race, Martin Truex Jr. won the race after leading for 150 laps. He basically dominated most of the race and took over and won. But the reason that the race got a lot of popularity yesterday was because on the last lap, Joey Logano and Kyle Busch connected cars, as I'll say, because if you watch the video, it doesn't really know if he did it on purpose.
You can't tell.
You can't tell, okay. My opinion, he didn't. Because
No.
when you're down on the inner line, it's hard. Sometimes you mess up.
You got to turn left. It's okay.
It's more than turning left on the last lap. But, no, Logano ended up finishing 4th, and Kyle Busch, of course, wrecked and went into 30th. But after the race, Kyle Busch went over to Logano and started a fist fight, and it turned into one of Logano's people pulled Logano away, and Busch was fighting 3 to 4 guys on Joey Logano's pit crew and team.
It's Busch League.
Busch walked away, bloody face and all, and nothing was really accomplished, but I understand why the fight started.
He turned left out of there.
Brad Keselowski right now is the leader in the Monster Energy Series. He has 132 points. Kyle Larson has 131. Chase Elliott has 129 points. Martin Truex Jr. has 127. He got a big boost from winning that race yesterday, and Logano's in 5th. And NASCAR regular season just started a couple weeks ago with Daytona being in February. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. The next race is Sunday, March 19th. They're going to be in Phoenix, Arizona. Last person to win that is Joey Logano last season. So Sunday is Logano has a good chance of winning again since he's doing very well, and he does better at those longer tracks. So that was NASCAR stuff with Mr. James Paxton.
It's pretty quick today.
You try to do NASCAR as fast as possible to keep the interest and to give the people who do NASCAR the respect they deserve. It's a fast track. It's a fast race. You do things the way you're supposed to do them.
Speedy. So, you got your Elite 8 set?
I do have my Elite 8. I would like you to go first, sir.
You'd like me to go first. All right. So, my Elite 8, let's start with the Midwest because that's where Michigan and Michigan State are. I got Kansas and Oregon.
Okay.
For the Midwest. South, I got North Carolina and UCLA. Those teams are just too good to be beat right now, in my opinion. And then over on the west side, I think Notre Dame will beat Gonzaga just because I feel like they're a team that just hustles every play and gets hard on those offensive rebounds. I just think they're going to be hard to stop. And then you and I talked about it, and you think Arizona's a little overrated, but I think that they can get into the Elite 8. So looking up at the east side, I had issues with this one. I think Duke for sure will get in. But I don't know about Wisconsin-Villanova, as weird as that sounds. I know Wisconsin just came off the loss to Michigan, but they're still a great team, you know? That's not really going to hurt them because of that one loss, you know? They have a strong team. All of them have the right mindset to go out and just win, you know? And Villanova is the same way. But Villanova had their chance last year, and it's hard to repeat, you know? When it comes to men's, it's really hard to repeat. So I'm not sure, but I'm going to go with Villanova going up against Duke in the east side. So do you want to tell me your Elite 8
Yeah,
now?
I'll say my Elite 8. Disagreed with you in many spots.
That's fine. You can do that.
Kansas and Louisville is going to be the Elite 8. I don't like Pac-12 basketball. I think it's a very minor league basketball. So I think Oregon will lose to Louisville. They'll get to that 16, but they'll lose to Louisville, and it'll be Kansas and Louisville in the Midwest championship. Then it's going to be North Carolina and Kentucky. I like UCLA. I like what they've done a lot.
You're partial.
It's not a biased thing.
You're wearing a Kentucky hat right now.
It's not because of the bias. It's because they have strong freshmen. They can shoot threes.
They always have strong freshmen. They're the one. Okay,
so I'm gonna pick North Carolina, Kentucky in that region.
That's fine.
And then the next one, as I talked about yesterday with a friend of mine, I think this has to be the upset region. I don't see Gonzaga going to the Elite 8. I don't see Arizona going to the Elite 8. I don't see Florida State going to the Elite 8. And I don't see West Virginia going to the Elite 8, which are all the top four. The Elite 8 will consist, in my opinion, of Maryland and Notre Dame. Notre Dame played in the ACC. They had to go up against Duke. They had to go up against North Carolina. They had to go up against Florida State. I don't see Gonzaga, Princeton, or West Virginia being very much of a challenge for them. So I see Notre Dame making it to the Elite 8, no problem. As for Maryland, I see Arizona losing either in the second round to St. Mary's or VCU or in the third round to Maryland. But I don't think Maryland will have any struggles getting past Florida State. Florida State is a very overrated 3-seed team in this tournament. Then we're going to go to the top where I agree with you with Nova and Duke. I think Villanova just has an easy way to get there. I don't think that Wisconsin game is going to be any trouble. To be fair, I think Tech's going to win that game against Wisconsin. I don't think Wisconsin's even going to be in the second round.
Ooh.
And I think Duke will go on to the Elite 8. So my Elite 8s right now are Nova, Duke, Notre Dame, Maryland, Kansas, Louisville, North Carolina, Kentucky.
All right, so let me just go with the Final Four then. Sound good? So I'm thinking it's going to be North Carolina, Kansas for one side of the Final Four. Two great teams. Just they know what they're doing. Every tournament that they get in, they always make an impact. And when they lose, they just barely lose, you know. It's always that last-second shot that happens to fall or something like that, you know. But I think this is the year for both these teams. They're both great teams, both well-coached. Can't say enough about them. So over on to the other side, as good as Nova is, I think Duke's just playing outstanding basketball right now. When you go 4 wins in 4 days in the ACC tournament, you're a special team, you know? That's really hard to do in any tournament, especially in the ACC. So they fought back against North Carolina and won, you know? Like, nobody does that. And then I think that I think Notre Dame make a Final Four appearance. What do you think?
From what I see in this year's brackets, I'll say, in this year's tournament, I picked 2 1 seeds, a 2 seed, and a 5 seed. No, excuse me, 2 seeds, a 1 seed, and a 5 seed. I think Kansas is going to beat Louisville in their Elite Eight game to go to the national Final Four. I do see Kentucky beating North Carolina. Reason being, North Carolina isn't as strong as everyone thinks they are. I do think they will go to the Elite Eight, of course, but I think Kentucky will beat North Carolina in that game.
What's the big factor for Kentucky to beat North Carolina, though?
Kentucky to beat North Carolina is simple. They have to play defense. They have to play really good defense against North Carolina's very high-scoring offense.
What's been their issue this season?
They haven't played very good defense.
Exactly.
I'm not going to argue that, but I believe come tournament time they'll play very good defense. I mean, you don't have to play as good of defense if you score points that Kentucky does.
But do you think
they have 4 people who score more than 10 points a game? That's Briscoe, Abadeo, Fox, and Monk.
I think if Monk goes off, I think that's the only way that they can win is if Monk just has an outstanding game and probably scores like at least 25 points on his own, you know?
I see that happening.
Right.
I
could see it happening.
Players making it big come tournament time.
That's what makes it so hard to pick, you know? Because I could see that happening as well.
So right now I see Kansas and Kentucky going to be on the Final Four on the right side.
Okay.
And I see Kentucky's going to beat Kansas in the Final Four. They're going to be in the championship game. I like what I see from Kentucky. Of course, I'm biased. Kentucky's my basketball team, but besides the bias of it, they have great players.
They do. I'm not going to deny that.
They have a great offense, so I see Kentucky making it to the championship. On the other side, I see Notre Dame beating Maryland, but I see Notre Dame getting to the Final Four very easily. Like I said, it's a very upset region. I guarantee the 1 and 2 seed will not come out of there from Gonzaga or Arizona.
No.
And then up top, I'm going to pick Duke to beat Villanova. Nova's a very good team, but Duke, with the shooters they have, with the players that they're playing with, and the amount of wins that they've accumulated late in the season, I think they have no problem going against Villanova.
So you already have your championship set?
My championship, it's going to be a rematch of the ACC title game. It's going to be Duke versus Notre Dame, and Duke will win that, and the championship will consist of the Duke Blue Devils and the Kentucky Wildcats.
All right. I'm going to say I think Notre Dame is going to get the best of Duke. I don't know why. I just have a weird feeling that Notre Dame is going to get the best of Duke to go into the championship. I don't know what it is, but something about that Notre Dame team, when they face a team a second time, or for this case it'll be the 4th time this year that they will be playing Duke, you kind of figure out what the team's all about, you know? They'll know that they got to shut down Grayson Allen. They'll know that they got to shut down just offensive play in general for Duke has been outstanding, so it's going to be hard. But like I said, this Notre Dame team is a grinding team. They will grind you down to a pulp if they have to. They're one of those teams where 50-50 balls, they're getting it because they know how important those are, you know? So I see Notre Dame going to the championship, and I mean, I don't know, dude. Kansas, North Carolina, that's a crazy matchup. I would love to see that. I think North Carolina, just because of how good they are. So who do you think is going to win it all then, out of your group?
I would pick Duke's going to be Kentucky in the final game.
Okay.
From the way they've been playing and the adversity they've had all year, I don't see Duke losing a game in this tournament, my opinion. I think Duke will be the national champion based on Kennard, Tatum, and Allen, all 3 players who are all-around players.
Tatum's playing outstanding.
They're good defenders. They're good offenders. They can shoot threes. They can drive in the lane. They're very quick. And the one thing I think Duke is the best team at in this tournament is at fast breaks and quick plays. They can go down the court faster than any team I've seen in the tournament. They can get quick points, and they've beaten arguably the best teams in the past couple weeks. They've beaten North Carolina twice.
Yep.
They've beaten Notre Dame, and they've beaten who they beat a couple weeks ago, which oddly enough was one of the high points of the season for Duke. And it came after Allen had that tripping play where, I mean, whatever you say about him or not, yes, he is a complete jerk and half the time an idiot.
But he's a good player.
But he's an amazing player. But they beat Florida State 75-70. That's the game I was talking about. That was a game that their whole team played very well.
Yeah, that was the first time that they all played really well together.
Yes, and I think that's what started this because they've only had one loss since that game.
They figured it out.
Right. They had some losses that they're not proud of this year and that really did not help them very well. But I do believe Duke will beat the Kentucky Wildcats in the championship game, and I predict that Duke will be the national champion this year.
Okay. I'm going to say North Carolina. Just because if you're going up against really anyone in this tournament, I know you said that you don't think they're as good as everyone thinks they are, but I really think they are. They kind of had an off game against Duke a little bit. They played amazing up until the final, 5 minutes, and then Duke started to run the ball. They usually push their own tempo when it comes to games like that, but it looked like they kind of slowed down a little bit and gave themselves the benefit of the doubt that Duke was going to fold, and Duke isn't one of those teams. Now, I don't know where they got that idea that Duke was one of those teams because they never have been and never will be as long as Mike Krzyzewski is there. That is a team that will never fold, never break, never bend, even if they're down by 20 with 15 seconds left. That's just how that team is. So, North Carolina, as long as they stay firing on all cylinders, all 40 minutes of each game, or if it goes into overtime, the whole overtime too, that's a team that's scary to go up against.
So your championship, your champion is who?
North Carolina.
Okay, so you pick North Carolina, I pick Duke. We're going to move on to our final part right now, which is the player of the week. I'm going to begin with mine, which is going to be Derek Walton Jr., who's a guard from Michigan. He scored 29 points against Minnesota on Saturday, and he had 22 points on Sunday, and he's become the leader to this Michigan give-back season, where it looks like Michigan can't be stopped right now. And that's thanks to Derek Walton Jr., who is an amazing player, a great shooter, an amazing passer. Some of the assists he makes in games is unreal. So my player of the week is Derek Walton Jr.
My player of the week, and really, my opinion, should be the player of the year for college basketball, is Frank Mason III. This dude is an awesome guy on and off the court. He's only 5'11", but man, can this dude score. This season, in the 2016-2017 season, he is averaging 20.8 points. That's over 8, or just under 8 points more than he was doing last year. This dude has really stepped up this year. Yes, this is his senior year, so this is the year to do it, But one thing that a lot of people may have missed about this guy that I think is amazing is he also has a son right now. He's doing all this for his son, He came out in the middle of the court one game and was saying that he does everything he does it for his son. And that's just a kind of feel-good story, about him. But he's an outstanding player, and I think he should win the Wooden Award this year.
Definitely up there for the Wooden Award. He's definitely one of the nominees. Walton Jr. and Mason III, both amazing players. Join us next time. We'll have a discussion about baseball, a discussion reviewing March Madness. Everyone good luck on your brackets. I know it can be very intense. I don't know if you're in any money leagues, Cameron.
Oh, no, I'm not wasting money on this.
Oh, it's not a waste because I'm in a money league. But before Thursday, I will be in 6 leagues. 6 or 7 leagues, I guarantee it, with 6 or 7 different brackets, with most likely 5 or 6 different champions. I mean, you have to do one where Michigan
you don't
wins.
put the same bracket in?
No, you don't put the same bracket in. Why would you put the same bracket?
You have multiple brackets? You're one of those guys?
You got to do one with the heart.
You're not comfortable with...
I pick Kentucky, and then I pick Michigan and another one, and then I do a silly one where a 10 seed wins it.
Oh, all the upsets?
Most of the upsets.
Okay, I did that one as a joke.
And then I do a very serious one, like I talked about in this one. I do seriously think Duke and Kentucky will be in the championship. And then I'll do one with just the teams that I hate. Like, I can't stand Duke. I can't stand North Carolina. I'm not a Michigan State fan. And I'll just find another team that I just hate because I don't like their colors. Like, they wear colors that I don't agree with, so I'm just gonna say they lose. Yeah, I don't like the colors that Rhode Island wears, so they're gonna lose in the first round.
The baby blue and the black.
Oh, that's awful. It's an awful blue.
It's pretty bad.
But you use the same bracket every time?
I mean, if you're going with something that's well thought out, and I mean, I kind of consider mine to be like the one bracket is the master bracket, you know? Obviously, as a joke, if I'm not in a competition with people, I'm going to put in just like random stuff. But for the competition aspect of it, I use the same bracket.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I think you gotta have a little fun with it.
Yeah, sometimes
that's the best part about March Madness. It's very exciting. This weekend, Cameron and I will be watching at one of our houses with a bunch of different TVs up.
We'll probably have 5 TVs downstairs.
5 TVs?
When it's all said and done.
I'm okay with 5. So Cameron and I will be watching on 5 different TVs. I hope everyone else is watching. I hope everyone filled out their brackets.
Fill them out.
Well, I think it's dumb not to fill it out.
It is.
Like I said,
it's fun. And even if you don't know about the game, you can happen to pick the right stuff. They say that if you know less about what happened in the season, you have a good chance of actually making a decent bracket.
Yeah, most of the time we look dumb just watching every single game. Thinking,
right.
Yeah, this happened this happened this
time.
We're
well thought out and all that. And then somebody just says, hey, guess what? You're terrible at picking teams. And then just laughs in our face.
This is Cameron Gwynn and James Paxton, the Cam Jam podcast. We're still working on the names.
Cam Jam Experience.
Cam Jam Experience.
We're going to experience what it's like for us to talk about sports.
Right, because it's always an experience to hear us blab.
Yeah, journalists, you know.